Hi everyone, Raven Check-Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Lizzo album, Special. This is a brand new LP from singer, songwriter, flautist Lizzo. She's back, finally following up her fantastic breakout record, 'Cause I Love You, from 2019. That record represented an era that showed Lizzo dropping a lot of snappy and sassy bops that fused rap and pop and R&B and soul, resulting in some of the most viral hits of the past few years, be it Boys or Truth Hurts, Juice. Since the pandemic, she's been keeping a bit of a low profile musically, outside of maybe a collaboration or a crossover here and there, and she eventually gave us our first taste of this new record through the song About Damn Time, a light disco throwback with very funky guitars and bass and keys. Lyrically, it's pretty much an assuring pop anthem that sounds like it is in a better place after having recently moved through a rough patch. As far as modern pop generally goes, I think the track instrumentally comes across a bit bland, but it's not anything that can't be made up for, wasn't made up for by Lizzo's vocal talents, which I think she is one of the stronger singers in the mainstream currently, and also just like a really fantastic hook on the cut too. But even after having heard and enjoyed this track, I'm not really sure what I expected from Special when it eventually dropped. Especially since Lizzo's execution and personality and formula seemed to be fully formed on her last full-length album, which really worked for her. So, why fix what's not broken? Like, obviously Lizzo knows her way around a chorus. She has a lot of versatility to her sound and style already. What more could she possibly add? Plus, her trademark sense of humor on a lot of her cuts is really just like an added bonus. Like, in so many ways, she is the total package. But for better or for worse, Special does have a different approach than that of any Lizzo album prior, and the results are kind of a mixed bag. And yes, of course there are highlights on this thing, but there are just as many moments like the song I Love You Bitch, which kind of comes across instrumentally like a very run-of-the-mill synth pop cut that feels less specific to Lizzo and more in line with this, newfound 80s trend that's in a lot of mainstream music these days. Meanwhile, the song Girls features a Beastie Boys interpolation of the song Girls, which comes across like an ill-conceived experiment of some sort. Plus, I think Lizzo is trying a little too hard to come across unhinged on this track, especially with this weird-ass male genital mutilation bar. And that's not even the only moment on this record that comes across thirsty for attention, like the track Everybody's Gay, which in and of itself, when you dive into the lyrics, doesn't contain, a bad sentiment or anything like that. It's a track that describes getting dressed in an outfit that you really like, being yourself, welcoming and loving yourself. The application of the word gay on the track seems to be more in line definitionally with it being a synonym for happy, but then also the vaguely validating lyrics on the track here and there do make it seem like you could easily interpret the usage of that word in the other way. Long story short, what I'm essentially trying to say here is that it seems like, the title kind of exists to be sort of a bait and switch of some sort. Obviously, listeners are going to get curious about a song titled Everybody's Gay. And if this song is meant to be some kind of pro-LGBTQ statement, I think it could have come across a lot stronger in its messaging. Because without that, this song pretty much just sounds like a very watered-down Michael Jackson ripoff, which is kind of disappointing because on all of her previous records on tracks, Lizzo would always lead with her wit, her incredibly bold personality. But there are at least a handful of cuts on this LP where that is pretty much missing, or it's been replaced by this very general motivational poster-style positivity, which isn't a bad thing in small doses. I mean, Lord knows that my spirits could certainly use some lifting. But are tracks like Special, for example, in my opinion, as satisfying as something like, an eccentric banger such as Tempo from the last LP? Not really. Tracks like that, as well as I Love You Bitch, just come across a bit too pandering. And even when Lizzo is trying to be more tongue-in-cheek, like on the very playful Birthday Girl, on this track, we kind of get the brand of humor you would receive from, a really corny comedy channel on YouTube circa 2012. Either that or in instances such as the opener, it kind of seems like the negativity and hatred that is very unnecessarily thrown Lizzo's way, mind you. Everybody who's kind of jumping down her throat over her doing too much and so on and so forth. Obviously, those people can fuck off and shut the hell up. But still, the opening track does make it feel like, these comments are getting to her a little bit more than they should. Honestly, my favorite tracks from this LP are the ones that seem to reflect on a love that Lizzo has been kind of working through over the past few years. Whether she is singing about, her personal journey of growing and learning to accept that she can and she should be loved on the song To Be Loved. There's also the song Break Up Twice, where she is giving a love that fell apart another chance, which is complete with these all too real descriptions of her friends being mad at the guy showing up again because at one point Lizzo obviously told them everything he had done. I also love the classic soul melodies, chords, and instrumentation on this track too. I mean, hearing Lizzo over something like this as opposed to like an 80s style cut, just kind of like sees her in her wheelhouse, sees her in her element, and you can tell vocally just like how well it kind of plays to her style, to her timbre, to her abilities. The song If You Love Me is a track that's very much about the world and other people loving you fully and completely, as people loving maybe just one or two things about you is not really love. Some of the lyrics on this track touch down on themes of self-love in a really powerful way too. And I'd also like to highlight that this is one of the few inspirational tracks on this LP that I actually get a lot out of, because I think for Lizzo it comes from a much more intimate and personal place than some of the commentary publicly that may be made on her at any given time. There are similar themes of being loved and accepted on the track Naked, which is a really powerful moment too, just instrumentally speaking, as the horn sections, the heavy beats, and the soaring vocal harmonies on this track are insane. And then there's the closer, which I think puts sort of a bow on this ongoing love story that we're hearing in glimpses on this LP, where Lizzo is essentially saying that through all the doubt and insecurities and changes, she is really going all in on this romantic interest. And of course, once again, the laid back beat, the super warm vintage bass line, and the vocal work sees Lizzo throwing it back to the 70s era, but with a modern punch on the production side. What's kind of odd about the track though is that it doesn't exactly send the record off with a bang, and obviously the title kind of centers the song around Coldplay. There's a Coldplay sample at the very beginning of the song, and in the lyrics it's pretty much revealed that when Lizzo is in her feelings a little bit, she likes to put on some Coldplay. But yeah, overall I thought this was a pretty solid LP. I mean, not nearly as satisfying as 'Cause I Love You, not nearly as many constant bops from front to back, but in a sense I do appreciate the more of a thematic focus on love and self-love and so on and so forth on this LP. That's quite nice, even if I think that messaging isn't always nailed on some of these tracks. But yeah, I see no reason why the fans shouldn't be digging this one if you dug 'Cause I Love You at least a little bit. Lizzo still sounds like Lizzo. She seems like she's worked through a lot personally and got to a much better place, at least a good enough of a place to make this record. And hopefully on a future LP we see her in even better standing artistically. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this one. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Lizzo of Forever.